What's up, fight fans? Welcome to the UFC 225 post-fight show. My name is Flying Brian J. Thank you so very much for joining me. What we're going to do is recap all of the action from UFC 225 with you guys, the viewers, being my co-host. If you're not wanting to listen to the entire show right now, it is available pretty much everywhere you can find podcasts. It's not available on Spotify or Pandora or stuff like that, but most places you can find podcasts, we are there. So if you don't want spoilers, you shouldn't have clicked this link to the video. But let's talk about Robert the Reaper Whittaker just defeated Yoel the Soldier of God Romero in back-to-back fights for him. Of course, Yoel Romero had a fight between there where he defeated Luke Rockhold via TKO, a knockout actually, in the third round of UFC 221. So my first question to you is, what did you score the main event? There was a little bit of controversy where Whittaker got 48-47, 47-48, 48-47, split decision over Yoel Romero. But there were a lot of people who think that the fifth round should have been a 10-8. And John Anik, Jimmy Smith, Joe Rogan, they all thought the fifth round should have been a 10-8 round. Anik said maybe even a 10-7 round in that fifth and final stanza. And honestly, I don't know exactly how I would score like 10-7, 10-8s for this fight because I was doing a live play-by-play stream on MMA Mania's YouTube channel during the main card portion of this. So I was trying to do play-by-play. I did, however, give round 1, 2, and 4 to Robert Whittaker. Perhaps the fifth round could have been a 10-8 and then we would have seen a draw. And round 4 is a real sticking point for some people, I believe, because in that round, Yoel Romero didn't do anything for a large portion of it. In fact, like the first, I want to say 2.5 minutes, Romero did almost nothing. And then Whittaker kicked Romero in the dick, which gave Romero up to 5 minutes, I think, to recover from that dick kick. So he got that 1 minute between rounds 3 and 4 to recover. And then he got the extra time from the dick kick to recover. And after that, he came and he hurt Whittaker quite a bit toward the end of the fourth round. And he landed 15 total strikes toward the end there. And most of them were significant. He hurt Whittaker, put him on stanky legs. But I scored the round in favor of Whittaker because he won like 4 minutes of the fight, of that round, excuse me. And Romero didn't do enough to really sway me away from that decision. And what I forgot to mention was prior to that, in round 3, was where Romero hurt Whittaker the first time. He came with a stepping in, like left hook that kind of was blocked, and then he came with a right straight over the top that hurt Whittaker and dropped him, put him on stanky legs, and was clearly Romero's round. So round 3 and 5, clearly in favor of Romero. Round 1 and 2, clearly in favor of Whittaker. Round 4 was that sticking point. And like I said, I gave it to Whittaker because he won the majority of that round. And Romero wasn't close enough to finishing Whittaker toward the end for me to give him that round. If you want to talk about a 10-8, in round 5, Romero did outland Whittaker 55-18. He had 1 knockdown and 3 takedowns. So that's as close to, if not like the definition of a 10-8 round that there could ever be in mixed martial arts. Chad Cheesemo, what's up, Chad? Dragon 67's here. Rob Amon says that he had it 48-47 for Romero. Dragon 67 says if it were a draw, that would have still resulted in a Whittaker win. Basically, because that would have kept Robert Whittaker with the belt. But because Romero missed weight by 0.2 pounds, it wasn't truly a title fight in the first place. So either way, Whittaker would have retained the belt. But so he got the victory. Even if it would have been a draw and it would have been a title fight, he would have retained the belt. But there's that. Hamza Aman says 48-47 Whittaker. And Doug Rowland's here. Beyond just, like, when I was watching it live and doing the play-by-play, I wasn't thinking about controversy. All I was doing was enjoying that fight. There were so many things to love about that contest. Yoel Romero always does the thing where he'll just stand flat-footed and just be defensive with his arms for large stretches of time. Whittaker came out with a really intelligent game plan, doing the stepping side kicks and the rear leg push kicks to the thigh of Romero. Those were working really, really well. The jab from Whittaker did a lot of damage to Romero's face. He might have broken the orbital bone on the right side of Romero's face. The jabs from Whittaker were doing really good. The jab, right high kick landed a couple of times on Romero. But because Romero doesn't have a neck, I guess, he was unfazed by these huge head kicks from Whittaker. And in the third round, when Romero had Whittaker on the ropes, was going to nearly finish him. I mean, he was as close to finishing anybody as you could ever see and then not finish them. While Romero was searching for that stoppage, Whittaker was doing some good things with some overhand elbows from both sides, and he would just kind of back up, and he was looking like pretty woozy and dazed as he was backing up. And then when Romero would come in with some uppercuts or some overhands to try to finish the job, when Romero stepped in, Whittaker would meet him with elbows. And they were some pretty huge elbows that, again, might have hurt a lesser man, but Romero just seems to be more human than human. Insanity. Dragon67, a win for Romero gets him another shot. Chad Cheeseman says Romero won that fight. Romero versus Latifi, says Hamza Aman at 205 pounds. Dragon67 says Romero versus Lesnar. I don't think so. Rob Amon says, I think Romero would only be 1 or 2 fights away from a shot at 205 pounds and would benefit from cutting less weight. So let's talk about that for a moment. Let's leave this fight for a second saying that I think that Robert Whittaker deserves to have the championship belt, and he'll get probably Kelvin Gastelum next for his next title defense. Romero, there is talks of him going to 205 pounds. Like Rob says, he's 1 or 2 fights away from getting a title shot at 205 pounds. A fight between him and Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson would be really good. And to Rob's point, if he were cutting less weight, perhaps we could have more action from him, because he only fights in these super short bursts. In the first round against Whittaker, he barely did anything other than like just explode with shots that he would be trying to finish the fight with. At 205 pounds, perhaps we could see a lot more action from this guy. Truly, in my opinion, no matter what Romero does next, Joe Rogan wants a third fight between Whittaker and Romero. I'm fine with that. I would watch that. But no matter what's next for Yoel Romero, I feel like he is must-watch television, and no matter who he's up against, he's going to be my number one most anticipated fight on any given fight card, because he can change the look of a bout in the blink of an eye. With just a lead left hook, could hurt anybody. And he's so fun to watch. Whether he's the middleweight champion or just like my current favorite fighter, in all honesty, because he's such a weird character. He's crying in the post-fight, thanking Robert Whittaker. Joe Rogan said, Yoel, do you want a rubber match with Whittaker? And he's like, tell you what, we fight 10 times, and I will accept that. My pleasure. Weird. Doug Rowland said, sad night for the UFC. All decisions on the main card. Only televised fights were late stoppage by Blaydes and De La Rocha sitting on that tired man. Hamza Aman can't believe Yoel Romero is 41. Me neither. Dragon67 says, at 205 pounds, Romero has more cardio for takedowns. Hamza Aman thinks that Robert Whittaker will get Chris Weidman next. I don't think so. I really don't think so. Let me check out Chris Weidman's Wikipedia. I know he's coming off a victory over Kelvin Gastelum, but he's done nothing since that, right? And so he has 1 victory in his last 4 fights. I don't think Chris Weidman's getting the title shot. I think it'll be Kelvin Gastelum. And like Dragon67 says, in the post-fight, Robert Whittaker said that he broke his hand in the first round against Romero because of Romero's fucking like iron skeletal structure. And he couldn't feel his arm like halfway down his forearm. He's probably going to need another long period of layoff. And perhaps we see, oh my goodness, perhaps we see Kelvin Gastelum versus Yoel Romero. Or another interim title fight. Who knows? I don't think that we're going to see Yoel get another title fight immediately, though, because he did miss weight. But like Joe Rogan said after the fights were over tonight, if this fight would have been anywhere, like if this fight would have been in Vegas, they would have allowed Yoel Romero to cut that final 0.2 pounds. The Illinois Commission told Yoel Romero that he had 2 hours to cut weight, and then an hour in, they told him that they didn't feel safe with him cutting the rest of the weight, and they made him weigh in. So, somewhere else, and they probably let Yoel make the weight. Rob Amon says Gastelum could expose holes against Whittaker. My main thing for why I would want to see Whittaker versus Gastelum is because they are both guys that used to fight at 170 pounds. Gastelum couldn't make the weight. Whittaker just decided to go up. And they're having great success one weight class above. They have high outputs. They're volume strikers with a lot of power as well. They're good with Gastelum's good with offensive wrestling, not so great with the defensive wrestling. And Whittaker is great with defensive wrestling, doesn't even try to offensive wrestle. Really. Intriguing stylistic matchup. So I think we've covered the main event, basically. If we were giving, like Jack Slack gives all fights a post-fight rating, like how much he thinks other people should watch the fight if they haven't already. If I was giving it a Flying Brian J score, 5 out of 5 for the main event. If you didn't watch it, go watch it. If you watched it, watch it again. Easily fight of the night, which we'll talk about our post-fight bonuses soon. But that fight for me was super entertaining. I loved it a lot. And yeah, it's fantastic. Now my next question to you guys as my co-host is, what post-fight rating would you give this entire fight card 1 to 5? I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing the pay-per-view play-by-play results. I really enjoy doing that, so that increases my enjoyment of the fights. I was a little underwhelmed because all of the main card fights did go to a decision, as somebody mentioned already. And I'll give it a 3.75. Let's go into the WTF of the card, the what the fuck of the card. And I don't think I wrote one down. I don't know if I have many that are available to me. One what the fuck of the card could go to Tai Tuivasa for asking Joe Rogan if he could borrow his shoe to do a shoey after defeating Andrei Arlovski via unanimous decision in a fight where Arlovski did a really good job keeping the distance against Tuivasa with jabs, with movement, and countering when Tuivasa would come in close. Tuivasa would often come in with some big looping strikes, and Arlovski would move away and jab Tuivasa as he backed away. And the problem that I think Arlovski had in that fight was, as they went into the third round, it seemed like Arlovski thought that he had it in the bag and took his foot off the gas and let Tuivasa beat him in the third round. That wasn't great. Oh, thanks for being here, Josh Sanchez. Appreciate you, buddy. Hamza Aman says 5 out of 5 for the main event. Josh Sanchez says 3.5 for the entire fight card. Rob Amon says a 5 out of 5. Hamza Aman says 4.75 out of 5. Jeffrey James says a 5. Dragon67 says can't rate it when he only listened to me, so probably like a 1.5 out of 5. And Doug Rowland thinks 2.5 out of 5 for it being underperformed. What is your WTF of the card? Another WTF that we could give is Mike Jackson versus CM Punk. There were large stretches of that fight where Mike Jackson was in the full guard of CM Punk, looking off in the distance, just looking out there in the distance, and hitting CM Punk with ground and pound. Looking over there, and then just waylaying on CM Punk. What the fuck? Not a positive what the fuck, not a negative what the fuck. It's just seriously that was weird. What the fuck? Then in the post-fight interview, Mike Jackson said that he wants another fight in the UFC, and he if he doesn't get another fight in the UFC, he would like to fight for Zuffa Boxing. Mike Jackson defeated CM Punk 30-26 across the board. And I forgot to mention, Tai Tuivasa defeated Andrei Arlovski 29-28, 29-28, 29-28. CM Punk looked pretty decent in the first round. He ate some shots. He gave Mike Jackson some shots. He might have rocked Jackson a couple of times. Maybe. He was throwing wildly. And Punk would go in for ill-advised takedowns a lot against Mike Jackson. And Jackson was ready for him. He would meet Punk with double underhooks, reverse position, press Jackson up against Jackson would press Punk against the fence, knee him to the thigh, get him with some elbows. Then he got him to the ground, and Punk, instead of trying to push his hips off and get back to his feet, he just let him stay in guard, and he tried for some really sloppy triangle attempts. I don't think we see CM Punk ever try to fight again, but if we do, it can't be in the UFC. It had been 638 days since he lost to Mickey Gall, and he didn't look a lick better, really. We didn't see much from him in the first fight in the UFC against Mickey Gall for CM Punk, but in this bout, it just wasn't great. Joseph Safi says CM Punk shouldn't have been on the card. That's his what the fuck. Dragon67, should scores for the next round be showed after each round? No, I don't think so. If you showed the fighters the score, the current judge's score between rounds, one, it might detract away from fight fans' enjoyment of the fight, because let's say that you clearly thought somebody won a 10-9 round one, but they show the judges' scores and the judges were 9-10 in the opposite direction of you, and you're just going to be like, instead of enjoying the second round, you're probably going to be thinking about, what the fuck did the judges see in the first round, instead of enjoying the rest of the fight. So I don't want anything that detracts my enjoyment of a fisticuffs battle. And also, it would change the sport. That would be like game changing, and I don't want that either. Jeffrey James says, not a lot of what the fucks tonight for some reason, and he's right. There weren't very many WTFs that I can remember. One, I'm going to use the next what the fuck moment as Josh Sanchez says his what the fuck of the card was Joe Rogan's commentary during the Esparza-Gadelha fight, where Joe was acting like Carla dominated. What's weird in that fight is that it seemed like Carla Esparza dominated a lot of the striking exchanges, which was mind-boggling. She hurt Gadelha in the second round, made Gadelha do the stanky leg. And in the third round, Carla Esparza was getting the better of Gadelha on the feet too. That was weird. And, okay, here's one WTF of the card. Gadelha, in the post-fight, the fans were booing the decision. And she said, hey, don't boo Carla. She's a former champion. Clearly, the crowd was booing the decision. She, like, what the fuck? She wasn't with it. And then she said that she thought she dominated Carla for 15 minutes. Nope. She clearly got rocked. She got really her bell rung in the second round. So she didn't dominate for 15 minutes. What the fuck, Claudia Gadelha. But the what the fuck of the card that I was going to make lead into the next fight that I want to talk about is Holly, the preacher's daughter, Holm, locked up like, I think it was 7, officially it was 4 takedowns on Megan Anderson. I didn't see that coming. I'm just going to give myself a what the fuck for not seeing that coming. Let's talk about Holly Holm versus Megan Anderson. At the very, very beginning, Megan came out, guns a-blazing, ran right at Holly, hit her with a right hand, hit her with a good knee to the body. I think she hit her with a plumb knee to the face too, pushed Holly against the fence. I thought, oh my goodness, Megan's going to end this fight early. But Holly clinched her up, pushed her against the fence, and showed some veteran savvy by doing some Colby Covington type of stuff with a right underhook, pressed Megan up against the fence, had great head control underneath of her chin, knee to the thigh, and just controlled her there. And then as the fight went on in the second and third round, she started going for these takedowns, and then once she got Megan to the ground, she transitioned all over Megan Anderson. She would get the fight to the ground, be in half guard, move to side control, look for crucifix mount, got to full mount, was raining down some elbows on Megan Anderson. And it was a very mixed martial arts performance from Holly on Megan Anderson. What do I want next for either fighter? I don't know. Holly said that she wants 135 pounds. She would also take 145 pounds. She's just happy competing. And what's next for Megan Anderson? I say we get her... Actually, let me pull up Tapology and go to women's featherweight rankings, because I think that what's next for Megan, and I want to see her in the UFC, but what I want to do is see her against... Well, I mean, Jermaine Durand to me would be fine. Or, just some nobody. Bring in a nobody. and let Megan get a victory in a non-title fight in the UFC women's featherweight division that we're trying to go forward with. Hamza Aman says Megan should fight Yana Kunitskaya. Done. She's not a nobody, so that goes against what I said. And that would test her wrestling ability. She needs to... Tonight we saw Sergio Pettis. He had a really improved takedown defense game against Joseph Benavidez a long time ago on this fight card. Megan should go into the gym with James Krause and focus on her defensive wrestling. She fights somebody like Yana Kunitskaya, as Hamza Aman says, and then we could see what we could expect from her in the future. I want her in the UFC, but she needs to, round out her game a little bit. She's a young fighter. She's 28 years old, and there's that. Okay, Decap is asking about Colby Covington. In the co-main event of the evening, Chaos Colby Covington defeated Rafael dos Anjos via unanimous decision. One judge gave it 4-1. Two judges gave it 48-47. Do I think Covington could beat Till? I don't know. That's a question that hasn't crossed my mind yet. I haven't been able to think about it. My mind goes straight to I hope not. I hope that Till would knock him out. But it doesn't matter, because Colby Covington became the interim welterweight champion tonight, and he is going to get a fight against Tyron the Chosen One Woodley in his next bout. I don't know when Woodley's going to come back, but I think that it's clear Colby Covington's going to get the title shot, because he's now the interim champion. He said in this post-fight after beating Rafael dos Anjos that he believes his belt is the real belt, and he's going to do what any true American would do, is he's going to take the belt to the White House and set it on Donald Trump's desk. Let's talk about some of the techniques used in this fight. From the word go, Colby Covington ran at Rafael dos Anjos, pressured him with kind of strikes that had an ellipsis to them. Not necessarily looping shots, but they were kind of wider, and they weren't the best, but they got him in tight, and he would get in on the hips of dos Anjos, press dos Anjos up against the fence. He had a right underhook most of the time. He would control dos Anjos' head with the jaw with the top of his head. He would occasionally change levels and look for a takedown, and hit dos Anjos with some decent elbows from there, and had quite a few takedowns on dos Anjos. And dos Anjos had trouble dealing with the pressure. The only surprise in that fight was in round 4, dos Anjos started taking Colby Covington down, and he hit him with a few. He was unable to hold Covington down for any amount of time, but I was surprised that dos Anjos went for that game plan. I believe it was the start of round 4. Dos Anjos hit... as Covington ran at him, dos Anjos hit him with a solid left, and then Covington wasn't moving forward as much, and that's when dos Anjos started getting his takedown game going. I only scored the 4th round for dos Anjos, and then the 5th round, Covington just did the same game plan over and over and over again. Josh Sanchez says, it wasn't fun to watch, but it was damn effective. I don't want to see Colby fight anyone really out of the lack of excitement, but he deserves Woodley. I agree 100% with Josh on this one. The fight was rather boring, but it was damn effective. I was thinking to myself that I should be more bored more upset about this performance from Covington. But I was just like, this is impressive. I'm kind of impressed. I'm not that entertained, but I am impressed. And I'm thinking to myself, can Covington do this against Woodley? And I don't know. Woodley has had his last 2 title defenses have been like the 2 most boring title defenses in the history of the UFC. Now he's getting another boring fighter in Colby Covington. We thought it might have been Woodley's fault against Wonderboy, but we saw that Wonderboy against Till was boring. We're like, okay, so maybe that fight wasn't Woodley's fault. Then we thought that maybe Woodley should have just been able to take care of Damian Maia. But we've seen Damian Maia be boring over and over and over and over again against his fight with Covington, his fight with Kamaru Marty Usman. And that could be on Usman, it could be on Covington. But so we're giving Woodley the benefit of the doubt for those 2 fighters being boring. And we think, let's get him an exciting fight. And then he has to fight Covington, which has the potential to be another snoozer. So Woodley could have the 3 most boring title fights in a row in UFC history. And they might not be his fault, but he's going to get a bad rap as a super boring UFC champion because his opponents have styles that aren't that exciting. But Jeffrey James says finally we get to see Colby versus Tyron. And Hamza Aman says Woodley is too powerful for Colby. Let's hope so. Let's hope that Woodley can ward off the takedown attempts of Covington and maybe get that big right hand on him. Who knows, though? I think that's clearly the next fight. Like I said, it wasn't entertaining, but it was honestly kind of impressive. I guess let's just move on. We kind of touched on Tuivasa versus Arlovsky. We've touched on Mike Jackson versus CM Punk. The last fight of the prelim portion, Curtis Razor Blaydes versus Alistair the Reem Overeem. Reem tried to run from Blaydes, couldn't even get big shots on Blaydes, and then Blaydes would take down Overeem and hold him there for the first 10 minutes. Overeem went for a heel hook attempt that got him back to his feet a couple of times. But really, Blaydes took Overeem down whenever Overeem would open up with a strike. And for a large portion of that fight, it's like, come on, Curtis, do something. It just felt like he was GSP top controlling Overeem, and he could have done more. And then finally, at 2:56 of round number 3, Blaydes opened up with some elbows from top position. He hit Overeem with 2 of them, knocked Overeem out. The referee was still just looking at it. And Razor Blaydes landed 3 more after Overeem was out. And the referee finally called it over. In the post-fight interview, Curtis Blaydes called out that he wants a title shot. So Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier for the heavyweight title is happening at UFC 226 in about a month on July 7th in, I believe it's actually in Vegas. So Curtis Blaydes says he wants the winner of that fight. And he's a really young guy. I'd like to see him develop a little more with his striking because his striking isn't the best. But because this division is so shallow, if Miocic defeats Cormier, like I think he will, I could definitely see Curtis Blaydes getting a title shot. And Curtis said that he thinks there's nothing left for him in this division other than that title shot. And for me, it's kind of hard to say no. Hamza Aman says Blaydes versus the winner of Ngannou versus Derek Lewis, which is happening at UFC 226 as well. But, I mean, what happens then? Ngannou, if he beats Blaydes again, then he gets another shot, and then Miocic just wrestles him a bunch again. I don't like that scenario. I like a scenario where we give Blaydes a title shot. That's what I want next for Curtis Blaydes, in my opinion. Hamza Aman says Overeem to Bellator. Yeah, put him. Just move him right now. Move him into the heavyweight tournament over there in Bellator. Oh, Rob Amon says that Miocic versus Daniel Cormier likely gets Lesnar. That's rumors. Let's see stuff play out. Oh, yeah, and Alexander Volkov needs a title shot, too. Rob Amon says Blaydes versus Volkov. Ooh. Yeah. Yes, I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going with Rob Amon. Curtis Blaydes versus Alexander Volkov. While we wait for if the Lesnar thing's happening. If the Lesnar thing's happening, then definitely Blaydes versus Volkov. If it's not happening, then Blaydes get a title shot. Jeffrey James says that Dana White is at the post-fight press conference right now, I'm assuming, and he said that he's mad that he didn't put Punk vs. Jackson on the Fight Pass prelims because he's not happy with Jackson for not finishing CM Punk. So Josh Sanchez says that Blaydes vs. Stipe only if UFC hates Blaydes. So then, okay. I really like the idea of Blaydes versus Volkov, so let's go with that. But for now, let's move on with talking about this fight card so we can get to our post-fight bonuses. How long have we been talking? I've been talking for like literally 4 hours straight because I did the live play-by-play thing. But that's not your guys' fault, but I just kind of want to run through this fight card. Before that, Claudia Gadelha versus Carla Esparza. Honestly, I wasn't paying attention too much. Carla Esparza would come in often in this fight against Claudia Gadelha with it might have been the first round that she hurt Claudia Gadelha. What round was that? Man, the UFC's website sucks. Well, anyway, so Carla Esparza would do the Team Alpha Male thing where she comes in with the low center, you know, 'cause she's a takedown artist. She would come in low and then come over the top with the right hand, and that's what hurt Claudia Gadelha, made her do the stanky leg. Then after she did that between the rounds, like I forget if it's 1 and 2 or 3 and 4, her corner was like, fuck the game plan, we're not wrestling anymore, we're not kickboxing, straight boxing. And in round 2, Carla Esparza outlanded Claudia Gadelha 83-28, and in round 3, Esparza outlanded Gadelha 78-24. Crazy. When Carla was not engaging in the takedown game, the grappling game, she was beating Gadelha. Thanks, Decap. I appreciate you for saying that. If you're on the podcast version, Decap was saying nice things about my live stream. So I don't know. Gadelha versus Esparza, it wasn't the best. Okay, featherweight moving down. Mirsad Bektic versus Ricardo Lamas. This had a lot of what Colby Covington did to Dos Anjos. Bektic would press Ricardo Lamas up against the fence, hold him there, knee him quite a bit. Bektic would win some exchanges at a distance, but like he did against Darren Elkins, he would be winning on the feet at a distance, and then he would still just go in for a takedown attempt. And honestly, I thought this fight was going to be a lot better than it was, and it happened like fucking hours ago. I don't really care to talk about it much more than that. So, Mirsad Bektic got the victory. He's from Lincoln, Nebraska, and way to go him. What's next for him? It just move up the ranks. Ricardo Lamas is a perennial, like, top 5 kind of guy. Bektic defeated him. I would like to see Bektic fight somebody like... actually, Bektic versus the Korean Zombie sounds decent. Dana White said Mike Jackson was acting like a fucking idiot during the CM Punk fight and that he should go back to whatever he did before we picked him up. He's 0-2 in my mind. Ooh. I know he's our boy Josh, but it was super weird that he was doing that look off into the distance and then just kind of like hang out, kind of pepper him with some ground and pound. That was weird. Dana White's an asshole most of the time. He blocked me on Twitter. But it was weird what Mike was doing. Whatever. Moving down, Chris De La Rocha versus Rashad Coulter. This was a heavyweight fight with very little technique or game plan, savvy, anything. These two guys got in there. They swang huge punches at each other. Especially Rashad Coulter would throw wildly. And Chris De La Rocha would throw straight punches. But Coulter hit Rocha with a lot of huge punches, hurt him. De La Rocha hit Coulter with a lot of big punches, hurt him in the first round. It was super fun for like the first 7 minutes of the fight. Then Coulter was super tired. De La Rocha was super tired. De La Rocha got Coulter to the ground and was hitting him with like the most minimal ground and pound imaginable. Coulter had De La Rocha had Coulter back mounted, and it's a scenario where he could flatten him out and just hit him with ground and pound on both sides of the head, and the referee is like forced to call it in that scenario. Look at Rashad Evans versus Chael Sonnen, that same type of thing. But De La Rocha was so tired, he would like throw one punch and then try for a rear naked choke, and he's like, oh, that's not going to work. So he would throw another punch and like, oh, I'm going to try a rear naked choke over here, and that wouldn't work. Then finally he threw like 5 punches in a row, and the referee's like, all right, it's over. Because Rashad Coulter had De La Rocha he was mounted. And De La Rocha had, so that's a WTF the card. De La Rocha was too tired to even finish him in the full mount when Coulter was doing nothing. Nothing at all. Really fun first 7 minutes, though. For that fight, De La Rocha versus Coulter was the most fun fight of the night other than the main event. And the last, 2 minutes sucked of that fight. So that tells you a little bit of something. Moving down, Anthony Smith defeated Rashad Evans, knockout with a knee. Evans decided he was going to go in for a takedown rather early. He was pressing Smith up against the fence. Smith framed off with his hand, was getting ready for a knee. And Joe Rogan's like, looks like Smith's going to try to knee him here in the face. Yep, definitely looks like he's going to try to knee him in the face. Pow! Knee to the face. And it's over. Joe Rogan said Rashad should have seen that coming. Rashad now is on a 4-fight losing streak at least. Let me double check. Rashad is on a 5-fight losing streak dating back to October 3rd of 2015, where he lost via decision to Ryan Bader. Then he got knocked out by Glover Teixeira. Then he lost a decision to Daniel Kelly. Then he lost a decision to Sam Alvey. Then he got knocked out by Anthony Smith. There's no going to Bellator for Rashad Evans. Dude needs to stop fighting. He has looked terrible. He has looked really, really bad. Anthony Smith in the post-fight interview called out Smiling Sam Alvey for UFC Lincoln on August 25th, and I'm all for that. I'm from Nebraska. I'm going to that fight card. Anthony Smith is from Nebraska City, the home of Arbor Day, by the way, and I would love to see that, even though I think Sam Alvey's a boring fighter. Hamza, I will be going to the UFC in Nebraska. It's a 2-hour drive for me. I'm going for shizzle. My older brother and I already scheduled it. Tickets aren't on sale yet, but yeah. Moving down, Sergio the Phenom Pettis defeated Joseph Benavidez via split decision 28-29, 29-28, 30-27. Sergio Pettis has now gone to the judges six times in a row. The last time he didn't go to the judges, he got knocked out by Ryan Benoit. The 2 fights before that, he's won. He had his wins. His last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wins in a row are via decision. Boo. That's not ideal. Him and Joseph Benavidez have combined for 11 straight fights that have gone to the judges. What the fuck? The story of this fight was basically that Joseph Benavidez was doing, even though he moved camps, he was doing the Team Alpha Male thing where he'd come in, duck, throw, hooks on both sides or an uppercut, wide shots, but Sergio Pettis was throwing straight down the middle. In fact, in the first round, Pettis threw a right down the middle that landed on Benavidez and hurt him, but Pettis has such little urgency, he didn't get the finish. Benavidez, in my mind, won the next 2 rounds. He outlanded Little Pettis in round 2, 26-24. In round 3, it was the same, at 28-28 with a takedown. So maybe not. I don't know. It was a close fight. I scored it for Benavidez, but whatever, I guess. And Benavidez had 2 takedowns. Whatever. I don't know. Rob Amon says Pettis versus Formiga. Fine. It's just like, so Pettis is on the cusp of a title shot, but he would just get mauled by Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Whatever, I guess. Before that, Charles Dubronx Oliveira defeated Clay Guida via submission guillotine choke. Similar to the Pettis versus Benavidez fight, Guida was having trouble closing the distance. He was at a range disadvantage, and he would try to duck in and come in with those strikes like the shorter fighters do oftentimes. They close in with the guard and then come in once it's closed and try to get some looping punches on their opponent. But Oliveira was moving out of range, landing jabs, moving away, hitting Guida with long kicks and stuff. And what was the strike that actually started the end of it? Oliveira hit Guida with a lot of jabs when Guida would try to come in on it. Toward the end of the fight, Guida hit Oliveira with Oliveira hit Guida with a right hand behind the ear that hurt Guida. So Guida went in for a takedown attempt, and of course Oliveira sank in his patented guillotine choke. He tied Royce Gracie for the most submission victories in UFC history at 10. And Oliveira, of course, this fight was at 155 pounds. He's fought at 145 in the past and missed weight severely. Joe Rogan asked him where he wants to go. He said he wants to fight at 145 pounds in September in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I don't know. I saw some people that said Clay Guida should be cut, but he was coming in on a 2-fight winning streak. What's next for him? I don't know. These guys that aren't ranked top 15, moving toward title shots, like anything possible could be next for them. And the curtain jerker, Dan Ige, defeated Mike Santiago. He came out guns a fucking blazing. He hit him with a right hook, then a left uppercut, went for the takedown, took the back with a body lock triangle, and pounded Mike Santiago out. So that's the entire night of fights. My post-fight rating, like I said, was a 3.75. I enjoyed it a lot more than you would think I would enjoy a fight card that the majority of the fights went to a decision. My question to you guys, Rob, James, Hamza, Josh, Decap, Dragon67. Who would you give your post-fight bonuses to? First, I want to know your performance of the nights. Then I want to know your fight of the night. My performance bonuses would go to Anthony Smith. I'm a little bit biased. He's from Nebraska. I think he needs an extra $50K. My next one would go to Dan Ige for running through Mike Santiago. I would give fight of the night to the main event, I think clearly, Robert Whittaker versus Yoel, the Soldier of God Romero. And if I'm giving an extra $50,000 out like I normally do, I'm giving $25,000 a piece to Chris De La Rocha and Rashad Coulter, because even though the end of that fight was super low-level MMA, I had a lot of fucking fun watching it. So cut that extra $50K in half, give it to those guys. Josh Sanchez said he would give performance of the night to Anthony Smith and Alex Oliveira, and fight of the night, clearly, if you guys don't agree, it's the main event of the evening. Clear, far and away, that was the best fight that happened on tonight's fight card. And I think that's it. That's it for the show, guys. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up. There is no fight card next week, I believe. Yeah, we are free next weekend. I'm going camping. It's going to be a lot of fun. But we'll be back on June 23rd for UFC Fight Night 132, where the main event is Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus Leon Rocky Edwards. The co-main event is Ovin St. Preux versus Tyson Pedro, and it should be a lot of fun. Hamza Aman says performance of the night should go to Holly and Dan Ige. And Hamza Aman, he also says fight of the night to the main event, clearly. Jeffrey James says I need to hurry over to the post-fight because Colby Covington and Michael Bisping are going back and forth at it. Anyway, I'll see you guys on the next pre-fight show. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up again. Follow me on Twitter at FlyingBrianJ, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Namaste.